ICANN reveals some shocking two-tier justice. Immigration offenders could be set to get away with a slap on the wrist thanks to woke new guidance. It may mean that hundreds of foreign criminals avoid deportation. Now, currently, the government has a duty to remove any foreign national who has been sentenced to 12 months or more in prison. But now, for offences like entering the country illegally, possession of false identity documents, they might actually get less than 12 months, so that's being downgraded. In fact, the guidelines recommend giving a first offence discount to someone who's committed an immigration crime. I mean, how mad is that? Because that's the big crime they want to commit, isn't it? Breaking into Britain. So if you give them a first offence discount for that, then what's the point in punishing them at all if you're not going to get rid of them? A first offence discount for illegally breaking into a country. I mean, frankly, we're not talking about nicking a library book here, are we? But it gets worse for all the talk about Labour smashing their gangs.
Serious answer is to smash the gangs.
We have to take those gangs down, to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
To smash these gangs.
Yeah. In reality, the Sentencing Council has said that people who help to bring illegals into Britain should no longer get a mandatory life sentence, rather just 10 to 16 years. So again, it's saying one thing and then doing another, isn't it? Judges are told to read the Equal Treatment Bench book, which includes an outdated and criticised definition of Islamophobia, as well as making reference to some guidance from the Muslim Council of Britain. The book also bangs on about how Germany and France take more asylum seekers than we do. So what's the implication there, then, that we should be doing a bit more for people like this, is it? A Kosovan cocaine dealer, we won't be able to deport him because, get this, his daughter is too young to work out how to do video calls. I mean, with respect, he wasn't thinking about his daughter when he was serving up lines of the devil's dandruff, was he? But compare that to what the American regime is doing.
Also want everybody to know, if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face. First of all, do not come to our country illegally. You will be removed and you will be prosecuted. But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
I don't think I can imagine that much worse than being in that prison cell. But it looks like you can get a lesser sentence now in this country, in Britain, if you're not white. And now you'll get a slap on the wrist for quite a hardcore immigration offence. It's almost like the law is being rigged against white Brits. Have you been getting a load of spam in your email recently? What about random calls? It's really annoying, isn't it? Data brokers are out there collecting your personal information. Anything from your email, your full name, your address, and even your political affiliation. Cyber criminals can even use AI to mimic the voices of friends and family to trick people into sending them money. And it gets even worse. People out there are getting huge loans taken out in their names without even knowing about it. But don't worry, because the sponsor of this video, Incogni, can help. They reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information is removed from their databases. Incogni continues to make sure that your data is removed automatically from the internet via repeated removal requests. So, how can you get started? Well, step one, hit the link in the description. Create an Incogni account and tell us whose data you'd like removed. Step two, grant Incogni the right to work on your behalf. Step three, sit back, relax, and watch Incogni work. They will update consistently so you know when your data has been removed. Incogni is risk-free for 30 days, so you can try it for yourself and you'll get a free refund if the service isn't for you. So take back your personal data today with Incogni. Use the code GBNews using the link in the description below and you'll get 60% off an annual payment plan. So let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. Senior reporter Guido Fawkes, Ellie Weekly. We've got Tory peer Lord Bailey and as well former Labour Party advisor Matthew Talbot. Yeah, look, Ellie, I'll start with you. I mean, it's quite shocking, actually, this potential for two-tier justice here now. You know, the talk about one thing, smashing the gangs, and then at every single opportunity, at some point, there seems to be downgrading anything that would smash the gangs.
I mean, it's also just another example of these lefty human rights lawyers pushing their own cause against our own interests and also our own border security. We've obviously seen multiple examples of that, of foreign criminals not being able to be deported for some ridiculous reason. But, of course, this isn't the only time that the Sentencing Council, this Quango, has deployed these two-tier sentencing guidance. Of course, judges are now required to have a pre-sentencing report for minorities, which effectively allows them to avoid jail more easily, and that comes into effect in just 4 days' time. Now, the thing is, Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, has made a lot of noise about how terrible this was, and she wrote to the Sentencing Council saying that this is awful and please review this guidance, and I will legislate if necessary. Of course, they just turned back and said, no, totally slapped her down, just said, it's not your position, there's nothing you can do. Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, has proposed legislation to overrule these top judges. And, of course, what have Labour done? Opposed it.
Yeah.
So they say all of this, and, of course, they don't actually act on it at all.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of this then, Sean?
I think there's 3 things to say. Firstly, this quango is just another example of how much power has been taken away from Parliament. I didn't vote for this Labour government, but I do think they should be able to do what they want to do, because they are the government. They won fair and square, so it's a proper mandate. But because we've given so much power to these quangos, they actually run the country, not the government. Kemi Badenoch was very clear to tell that to Keir Starmer. I think Keir Starmer needs to... I think the whole political class need to do something about that. But the more important thing for me is these people have broken the law in a very particular way. If you don't want that, if that's not a problem, then change the law, because they go back to communities that these judges don't live in and have an impact on communities these judges don't live in. And what they do, they drive racism, they drive division, and that changes our social scene. And the third thing I'll say, if you are going to smash a gang, I told everybody before, there's 2 important things. Firstly, we need to have a relationship with the country that the gang operates in, and secondly, we need to destroy the business model. And if you're saying to the customers of that gang, even if you get caught, they will keep you, what we are doing is giving more value to that business model, not breaking it.
Yeah, Matthew, I mean, what Keir Starmer will probably say, and Shabana Mahmood will probably say, is this is a quango, the Sentencing Council, but you would have thought that a democratically elected government with a huge majority in the House of Commons could have power over that quango and tell them, no, we think this is ridiculous. I mean, is there anything that Labour's done that's made it less of an incentive now to come to Britain illegally, do you think?
It's a good question. I think the point I will make firstly, though, is that the Labour government can do what they want. If they want to get rid of this quango tomorrow, they can, as they've done with NHS England. I think ultimately as well, the power still resides, 1, with the government, but 2, with the judge. The Sentencing Council is there to give guidelines. This is the same as when years ago, my checkered history is well known, you go and get your pre-sentencing review. The whole probation services thing is to try and give the judge a little bit of something to grab onto, like, don't send him to prison, he might be better off doing this. Also, their remit is to look at the future with regards to reoffending. If you're going to consign people to prison, they're going to come out and go back in again. That's how the justice system works. And ultimately, again, if the judge has a case in front of him, he can overrule the sentencing guidelines if he feels it is fit with regards to preserving justice.
What could be the benefit, though, do you think, Ali, of removing a mandatory life sentence for human trafficking and replacing it with something like 10 to 16 years? I mean, surely this is the exact moment we've got... It's up 40% in the Channel so far this year. This is the exact moment we need to be increasing deterrence.
Or maybe it's the fact that we don't have enough prison spaces. I mean, I don't think that's actually what's going into the Sentencing Council's mind, but potentially Labour could point to that, and we're running out all the time, we're having to release criminals early, and all of the woes that come with that. But as I say, I think it's just another example of these lawyers who, as you say, are not affected by just sort of multiculturalism and immigration impacting their own neighbourhoods, because they're usually in the suburban areas, and they're sort of lovely large houses and hardly any crime around them, etc. So they're not impacted by it, so they don't care, and they think what they're doing is right, and trying to sort of spread the love for everyone else other than actually people who are affected by it, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is, as far as Robert Jenrick is concerned anyway, this makes it less likely in Britain that we will be able to deport foreign nationals. And that is, I think, the opposite of what the public want.
He's 100% right, and the Labour government can't do anything about it, because if you're a judge and you get that advice, you will act on that advice. That's what the advice is for. And because it's a quango, and I don't know how this particular quango is set up, but they tend to be set up legally, properly, because the government did it. It could take years to reverse that. And in the government's defence, we have a very busy programme in Parliament. When are they going to fit that one in? And the point I'm trying to make is the government need a very big programme of bringing back those powers to Parliament and dealing with these things properly. Because you are kind of putting the judiciary at risk, because they are now making decisions that look political when actually they're just...
Well, they do overtly look political. They do.
A person could fully be of that opinion that that's what's going on. What we need to do, I truly do believe you need to give judges latitude. That is a fact. But these sentencing guidelines, are they really? They might be giving some judges cover. I don't know if they're giving latitude. And I think the government needs to have a determined thing of reducing the amount of quangos. And plus, if they're going for growth, it could be important to lower that cost.
Yeah, indeed. Matthew, just finally on this, it is another story, this, of yet again, it appears in Britain that if you are British, a British national, you are at the back of the queue, or you are more likely to be punished more severely than someone who, you know, in the case of the Kosovan cocaine dealer, for example, there. I mean, the idea that he couldn't possibly go back to Kosovo because his daughter's too young to work a video call, well, I'm sorry, but that's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think this is potentially where the law, maybe in its antiquated way, and, you know, there's so much of it, it needs updating. You know, you'll be here till the end of time updating it. It doesn't always meet common sense. And this is where guidelines can be useful, because it gives a generic outline of what you should be punished and by how long for. I think the key thing for Labour, politically and whatever else, is the 1951 Act that allows people to come to this country, as people would say, illegally. The only way you can claim asylum is to present yourself at British shores. I would like to see a clear separation of those that are fleeing persecution compared to those that get on the coattails of those fleeing persecution as economic migrants. And the only way to do that is to have checkpoints offshore, be that in France, be that in Turkey, be it at certain pinch points where other countries are seeing people fleeing, like Afghanistan and Syria. And that way, it's about fairness. This is how the left should argue immigration. Those that really need the shelter as such and are really fleeing, they should have every right to apply.
A lot of people would see a lot more women and children arriving.
And what you would see...
Men of fighting age.
But you would also see, which would be great for political optics, people stopping to cross the channel, because you don't have the opportunity to fling your passport into the channel and go, I'm actually from wherever. You're getting processed at France, which the French have offered in 2021. Whether that's still the case, you know, who knows? But you will stop people coming because they won't even get here in the first place, and that benefits everybody.
That's a serious suggestion that should be looked into. But why we haven't got there, I want to be very clear. The Tories were terrible at immigration, but a lot of that was driven by the Labour Party accusing the Tories of racism every time they made any kind of situation, particularly about offshore processing, which that sounds an awful lot like. Everybody in the political firmament now has to accept our immigration is causing pressure for us socially and financially, and we need to take a radical step. Currently, what we're doing is tinkering around the edges.
All right, guys. Well, look, thank you very much for that. I'm going to read a statement out now from a spokesperson for the Sentencing Council. So they've said, these are draft guidelines which have not yet been published as definitive guidelines. The draft guidelines were issued for consultation between the 20th of March and the 12th of June 2024, and the Council sought a wide range of views, including from anyone who uses sentencing guidelines in their work or who has an interest in sentencing. Okay? As with all our guidelines, they must follow legislation set by Parliament. There was an exception made in respect for the facilitation guidelines, as legislation had recently amended the statutory maximum sentence to life. Judges and magistrates can sentence outside guidelines if they feel it's in the interests of justice to do so. We have also here at GB News approached the Ministry of Justice, but so far they have declined to comment.